I don't know the answer. I think you can share from your page.
All right.
So
Nope, you're live on. You're live.
just about. Oh, do you actually see it already?
I see it up on the corner.
Awesome. So give me just a moment. Welcome everyone. If you're joining us, I'm trying to pull it up so I can see any comments. Also, there's always a little bit of delay. So I've got multiple technologies here. We're getting it rolling. Let me turn the sound off. I've got multiple technologies here. We're getting
Get to hear yourself talk, huh?
just a minute. All right. No sound. That's much better. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us. So glad that you could be here with us. Just grateful to be here with you and with David. I just want to start by saying, I realize that your time is the largest commodity we have. So if you're joining us today, I appreciate that. It's phenomenal that you're here. And there's a reason why we chose not to broadcast this to all the Facebooks. Maybe it will be afterwards, but this is a benefit to the group. This is the group of high achievers. There's power in that. And I just want to speak into that for 1 second, and then we'll connect into David. But there's power. There's such a wealth of knowledge in this group. We have some really heavy hitters in here. We got some great personalities in here. We got people who are just starting out, and we got people who are well on the path. And so what I really want to encourage you to do is not necessarily, this is not about note taking. This is not about, it's not about the content. It's about the experience of the journeys that I've been through, the journeys that David's been through. So I want to encourage you to just experience this. It's not about the content. Just sit back, relax, put your feet up, or just ground with us. Put your feet on the ground. Just take a moment, settle in, and just sit back and listen. And it's not necessarily about the words that we're sharing, but it's more about the experience that you experience inside while you're listening to us just chit chat. And this is just about dialogue. So it's not a true interview, although I do have a few questions for David because he's amazing. And so I just really wanted to speak into what he's doing and that kind of thing. And then see how that ties into his individual brilliance, because that's what I do. I'm all about clarity and brilliance. Mm-hmm. So David, tell us just a few housekeeping tips I want to say first. So if anybody's experiencing this and they're on here, feel free to just experience it yourself and be interactive. This is more about interaction than it is about reacting. This is not dialogue. Or monologue. This is more about dialogue and experience. So if you like it, hit a couple likes, or hit Yana like you're not alone, or hit like breakthrough out loud, BOL, or just whatever it is you're experiencing. Like don't hesitate. Just say, hey, I did that too, whatever.
Those are new ones, man. You're teaching me.
We got some good ones. So, but I want to say, experience it with us. So don't be afraid to hit like pound live or pound replay too, because that's always helpful for collaboration. So David, tell us a little bit about what you're doing, because you're doing some amazing work with companies and through your masterminds and like Fortune, 200 and 500 companies. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So my main focus of my consulting practice is to help companies to recognize that there is a need for being intentional with their culture if they want it to become high performing. And not only just intentional, but systematic. And then what happens in that environment, once we bring the systematic approach to them, is that what ends up happening is that the leadership team recognizes that they need to be able to lead better and to break through their own and find their own brilliance, quite frankly. And so what I do then is, from there is I help them to be able to do that, to find that their brilliance within the context of creating a high performing culture. And so one of the things that I'll always share with a company, whether it's a Fortune 200 company or if it's a small entrepreneurial startup, is that it's not about just driving numbers. Sometimes we get this perception that, high performance is all about driving numbers. We got to perform, and it's all about the bottom line. Well, don't get me wrong. I mean, you got to have a bottom line to be able to make sure that you're staying in business, but it's also about the well-being of the people that are making up your organization. And that performance means that if they're being fed, then they can, you distracted me for a second. That's good. But if your people are performing well, and if they're being fed and feel like they have a good well-being, then they can perform better. And clarity stretches culture. I love it. That's good, man.
Sorry, man. I was just messing around with you a little bit.
I love
you knew
it.
This was going to be fun. This wasn't going to be boring,
you knew you could throw me off, didn't you? I'm like chasing little squirrels, man. You put something in front of me, I'm going to find it.
Hey, I said this is going to be an interactive experience.
I love it, man. I love it. No, that's good. That's good. Anyway, so that's a little bit about what I do.
That's awesome. So I admire what you're doing. You're a little ahead of me on the path. I'm not afraid to admit it, but it's awesome. And that's what collaboration is all about. It's us working and growing together. And that's what this group is all about too. Not to plug their group, but that is that was my whole goal for this group is this is not about numbers. This is not about, a lot of groups are just trying to drive numbers. I learned long ago through my experiences in working with different cultures. Now I have had a unique experience. And I don't brag about this like outside too much, but I'm learning to grow into it. But I've worked with and for over 60 companies. So I have a very broad range and of bandwidth, if you will. And so I've worked with some really good ones and I've worked with some not so good ones. And the ones that have a thriving culture are tremendous. So I really love what you do. It's literally, it's changing the world. And I posted on LinkedIn yesterday just about like the grain of sand. Like you take a grain of sand and drop it in the ocean, you literally change the global community. Now you might just be doing it in a small way, but every little bit of that helps change the world. And so we grow into, that's what, I talk about this individual brilliance. A lot of people don't really understand what it is, and that's okay. But as we grow into our individual brilliance, we find clarity. And the more clarity we find, the higher we level up. The higher, when I say level up, it's just a tier of us growing. So you kind of pop to the next level and then pop to the next level. It's like iterating, right?
Well, it's kind of like, it's kind of like polishing the diamond. You've got to be under pressure for so long till you even become a diamond. And then you kind of polish one side of the diamond, and then, maybe you got another cut. And so you have to, polish that side. So you just continue to grow through that, through those experiences and through the journey, for sure.
Absolutely. I like to talk about sculpting. It's like a gemologist.
Yeah.
A gemologist takes a rough cut and they chip away at it and chip away at it. There's a special way that they do that. So I went through 10 years of transformation. I'm still transforming. Like this year has been amazing for me. Yeah. So let's go back to, what you're doing and what kind of impact that you're creating and how that's growing. Mm-hmm. So I do have a couple of questions for you. What do you believe? I'm interested to know, and this is, comes from my side of things and my curiosity. What do you believe that your unique brilliance is rooted in?
The interesting part of that question is the rooted in part. Because I think that as I look at my roots, I look at my father and my grandfather. I was in business with my dad for nearly 20 years. And my dad was in business with his dad for a number of years. And so I think that my grandfather was an entrepreneur. He was a master recruiter in the insurance agency world. He was always a top producer. So I think that that's probably where it came from, his entrepreneurial spirit. Even before he was in the insurance business in the 1950s, he ran a grocery store and a bakery, and he sold the grocery store off and then just concentrated on the bakery. So when I think about your question, where my brilliance is rooted in, I think I look at the roots. And so I think that's where it starts to come from. This idea of achieving and serving people is really in my bloodline, if you will.
Love it. I absolutely love that. So that moves me just to even hear you say that, because there's a reason why most of us are in this group. I would venture to say all of us, is that we know that serving is the key. I mean, that's really the key, man. It so moves me to hear anybody say that, because anytime somebody says that, I know that we're closer to being on the same page.
Well,
someone that doesn't understand abundance or doesn't understand service, it hasn't really quite gotten to that point yet. And that was a major transforming moment when I learned that years ago.
Well, and I'll tell you, Brad, the thing that I can as I look back on my life, when I was in my 20s, it wasn't always that way. I mean, I really was, my 20s, it was all about, dollar signs and me, give me as much money as I possibly can. I want to be, at a certain level by the time I'm 30. And then I started to realize and recognize that there's more to life than that. And I think it just took a little bit of, maturation to go through a little bit of life. And, quite frankly, getting punched in the jaw a couple of times, with some business deals that made me realize that that's really not all there is. And then even in my 40s, as I moved kind of through my 30s and my 40s, I started learning more about what was really important and what transcended success, and that was really significant. So anyway, I could go on for days on that, but certainly we're all a work in process, and we're all getting cut off of different layers all the time.
I'm just enthralled. I don't even know what else to say anymore. I can't top that.
Come on, man. You're a coach. I know. You got ready to roll.
Well, that's totally not true. But I was enthralled in what we were saying, though.
That's cool.
No, I mean, I'll share a story. So when I was younger, from the age of like 9 or 10, I wanted to be CEO. My friends made fun of me for it, but I wanted to be CEO. I mean, these are the kinds of things like we have these metaphors. Or not, well, we use metaphors. We have these paradigms that we carry with us, right?
Yeah.
That we pick up from places that sometimes we are not even quite sure like where we get them. Mm-hmm. But we carry these metaphors, we work with these metaphors until we learn how to break out of them. And that was an early metaphor for me. I was taught to just like step on people to get to the top. And like, these are the kinds of things that were these motivational types things when I was young that I used to hear, like, you got to do everything to get to the top, But I wanted to be CEO. So I absorbed some of those things. My transformation involved getting rid of a lot of those paradigms that I picked up, those beliefs that I picked up at an early age, because that's what was modeled to me. That's what was taught. And that is so far from actually what would actually take us to that place, right?
Yeah.
I did become CEO of multiple companies. I ran multi-million dollar companies for a number of years, but I didn't quite do it in the right way. Huh. So part of my journey was I came to the point where I realized that there were some character issues and I had to work through those. So I'm in a totally different place now. Thank God for that.
Yeah. What was the catalyst for you, Brad? What was the catalyst for turning, kind of recognizing and raising your awareness that you needed to kind of shift away from that?
Oh, is this where the interviewee becomes the interviewer? I love it.
you can take the coach out. You can't take the coach out of the coach or something like that. I don't know.
I know exactly where you're going with that. No, I'm happy to share that. So I got to the point where I was financially I was, good. Right. Yeah. But I got to the point where I realized we describe it as you get to the pinnacle, right? So you're climbing the mountain. Let's call the mountain of success, the mountain of success, right? And you're at the base camp, you're at point 1 or point 2 or point 3. I love climbing. Yep. So that's a great metaphor for me. Mm-hmm. And so you're like struggling to get to the top. If you're on the Appalachian Trail, man, let me tell you, you're climbing. You're not, this is like, it is one foot in front of the other, but you're working, like you're heavy breathing. I mean, you're climbing to get to the vista. And so I love the metaphor, but so I struggle to get there. I'm climbing and I'm struggling and I'm, relationships, and you're juggling all these balls, right?
Yeah.
But then I got there. It's like you get there and you look over and you say, is that all there is?
Mm-hmm.
No, it can't be. That's not true. So, that mindset of like money and success and fame and significance and the 6 factors that drive us. I mean, if you haven't studied those, Tony Robbins does a phenomenal thing about, the six levels of what drives us. And maybe I'll post a link for that later, but it was eye-opening to me to realize that my target was off. So that's the best way I can answer your question. When you come to that realization, you start exploring, you start looking for mentors, you start looking for models. I'm very transparent, and this could be embarrassing for some people, but not for me. I sent a letter. I wrote a very compelling letter, like heartfelt. I spent a long time. I spent days and days on this letter, on shortening it and getting it to, readable size, and sent letters out to people on LinkedIn. I sent letters to like CEO of Walt Disney, Tony Robbins. I sent letters to like people that I knew could take me where I knew I was in my heart. I had done a lot of work, but that I wasn't there yet. So like, how can I level up? Who can I get in touch with? What mentor can I get? Who would be willing to talk to me? Because I'm not where I want to be. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I hope that answers your question, and I hope that's helpful to a couple people here. Before I ask the next question, I want to say, so Suzanne is on with us. She said, "Hey, howdy, boys." Jeannie's here. Jeannie is awesome. Tanya's here. Tanya's awesome too. Everybody's awesome. Tim Kane is here. What's up, Tim? Mario's watching, and then Nathan said, "How in the world did you get my good buddy David? He's a rock star." I love that.
Is that Nathan Eckel or Nathan Cook? I know a couple of Nathans.
That's Nathan Cook. He's got to be sitting there in his bow tie. Wait, should I get a bow tie?
Yeah, I don't have a bow tie, man.
Last time I went to do a live the other night, he didn't have a bow tie. I was like, is that Nathan?
Love it, man. Yeah, he's a high achiever, man. He's awesome. Man.
No doubt about it. He does
some the stage with John Maxwell. Oh my gosh, dude.
Yeah, he does some amazing stuff. Jeannie says, "Love it." So, what advice would you give someone looking to like step into their own unique brilliance?
The first thing that comes to my mind is, first of all, don't be afraid to do it, because I think that sometimes fear holds us back. One of the things that I've recognized, I think probably over the last maybe 15 years, is that, once my dad passed away about 15 years ago. And, I was always kind of the number 2 guy. And he was always, when we were in business together, we were equal partners, but, he had the business. He was the lead dog. And I think it took me a while to actually step into that and to actually be okay with and not afraid to step into my own brilliance. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind. I would say, don't be afraid to do it and explore and fall flat on your face. That's okay. That was one thing that I think that held me back for a long time is not wanting to fail, but, having this idea that, hey, I had to be perfect. And, everybody knows nobody's perfect. So, I think being afraid of that can hold people back. The second thing that I think comes to my mind is endurance. For almost 20 years, I used to say I raced triathlons, but I never really raced. I was not super fast. I was one of those guys that was kind of in the middle of the pack. And my whole goal was to just first time it was just to finish. Next time was to beat my own personal record. But that whole era of my life, created this framework and this way to view life as an endurance race. It's one thing to get out there and, run, but to run followed by a swim and a bike, man, you got to kind of pace yourself. You got to make sure that you're on target with your hydration, your nutrition. And so endurance, I think, is the key. Once you get past your fear and you start into the action, being able to endure and persist. I mean, you know that I'm doing a Think and Grow Rich masterclass right now, and the people in that masterclass, have heard me say that, the persistence chapter is one of my favorites because, being able to just continue on in the face of really tough situations, I think that's probably the biggest key to anyone's success.
I had to, while you were talking there, I had to type in our own live Zoom BOL because I just had like a breakthrough out loud as you were talking.
Oh, nice. Tell me about it. Tell me about your breakthrough.
I kid you not. I mean, I'm joking, but I'm not joking. So it's been something that has been occurring today, and then it's been leading up, like over the course of the past week. So for anybody that doesn't know, I left the corporate world. And so this is a brand new thing. Here's how I'm going to put it. So I'm going to stop playing small and I'm going to start playing big. Yeah. And it's like, so the transformation that I went through from last year to this year is amazing, but I'm looking forward to the transformation that I'm going through right now from this year to next year. And see, that's what it is that we do, but we also experience it. And that's the amazing thing. So you're doing this on multiple levels. Yep. Just like here in this group, there's people behind us, but there's people ahead of us. And that's the amazing thing. And that's what this is all about. So where I think you're ahead of the path in terms of like working with corporate entities and that kind of stuff, it's like where I want to go. And even maybe speaking and whatever, this is amazing. We work together, we grow together, and we grow the whole as well as growing the group. Like there's so many multi dynamics going on here. Yeah. And that's really what I wanted to speak in today.
Awesome.
So part of that is that I realized over the course of the last week that I had really been playing small. And yes, I've been helping people and I'm serving and I'm adding value, but I'll give you an example. I went to go get my hair cut, thank goodness, because it was awful. And I was just chatting with the girl that was cutting my hair. And we learn these things like throughout the day, right? And she said, "What do you do?" and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, "Oh, I'm a clarity coach." She's like, "Oh, what's that? I never heard of that before." And so I began to tell her that, and she was just thrilled. She's like, "I've never ever heard of that." Yeah. And the amazing thing is, like, even in this group, or when we get involved in our circles, like all of us, the JMT and the people that we talk to, they all get that. But what's amazing is there's so many people outside that that have no idea what we're talking about. Right. And that's when you realize that you've gotten to a point where you have a whole lot to offer. So it's not only just us learning and growing, but it's also us reaching out to be able to serve other people in that capacity. And I thought that story might actually help someone listening, or maybe somewhere down the line. So not only broadcasting live right now, but perhaps people will come in the group later on in the past, in the future, if that makes sense. Yeah. There's so many dynamics going on. So thank you for that. That's amazing.
Nice.
So Tanya said she agrees, David. She said she's a little bit scared of falling her face. Yeah. But we're going to talk her through that.
Absolutely. You know what? I'll tell you, Tanya, scrapes are only there for a little while, man. They heal. So you know what? Fall down and learn from it. Get up and get up one more time, then you fall down. Just keep going.
There's an old Japanese proverb, but fall down 7 times, get up 8. I love that.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, and what you were saying earlier, I wrote transition. So you're taking that journey that you had to take from like swimming to biking or whatever. Like you had to transition a lot in between. Yeah. So
yeah. And transitions. It's interesting you bring that up because I've thought about that a lot. So I've got a picture on my wall here in my office, and so I have a guy that I used to train with like for thousands of miles. We would ride bike together, thousands of miles, hundreds of thousands of laps in the pool. But when it came down to race day, we were so dead even. I've got a picture that I basically beat him by 3 seconds. Now he was 9 years older than me, so he was in a different wave, a different heat. So I didn't see him the whole race, but I beat him by 3 seconds, and I kid him to this day.
3 seconds.
It was the transition. Yeah, it was the transition from the swim to the bike. And you know what the difference was?
Tell me.
Socks.
Tell us.
Socks. I did not put socks on.
Socks.
I did not take the time to put socks on when I was jumping on my bike, and I just put my shoes on, clipped into my pedals, and off I went. And I had practiced that for weeks up until that, because I thought to myself, I'm gonna beat him in the swim. We're probably about dead even on the bike, and he's gonna kick my hiney on the run. And so I thought the only place that I could really make up some time is the transition. And so that was what I did. And so sometimes it's the smallest things that make the biggest difference. And so don't be afraid to look for those small things.
I absolutely love that. That is a great story. Thank you. That's so true. So one of the things I love to speak on is the difference between a degree, the change in degree, and a change in kind. And it's not one that a lot of people have done a lot of research on, but there's a degree, there's a change in degree, which will just, if you just think of 1 degree, sometimes that change in 1 degree will take you will level you up, take you to a completely other place, which is exactly what you described. So oftentimes we think to be something else, or, coaching has a lot to do with this. We need to do something else, or we need to change our lives, or we need to change our jobs. And oftentimes that's a change in kind. That's a complete change. So you're changing from a dog to a cat. You're going to change your career, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't need to do that. So sometimes we just need to change that 1 little degree. And so I love that story. That's awesome.
I got it. So you just triggered a whole nother story. If I don't know how much time we've got here, but I've got this. So, it's interesting, talking about degrees. So one of the things that I did in my 20s is that I didn't have enough to do, I guess, going through college. So my senior year in college, I went and got my private pilot's license. And then, the flying bug, caught me. And so then I got my instrument rating, went on to get my commercial license. And then, I thought, well, I've got this habit. I really need somebody else to pay for it. So I got my flight instructor certificate. So, through that process, one of the first times that I actually went up into what's called IMC, instrument meteorological conditions. Once I went up into in the clouds, and I was shooting my first real approach, and I didn't have a hood on or anything. I mean, I was in the clouds, and
David, you're always in the clouds.
Yeah, my head is always in the clouds, man. Oh man! But so I'm shooting this approach, and one of the things that you're always taught to do is keep that VOR needle right in the center when you're on final approach. Well, I was off just a little bit, like probably maybe 2 degrees, and I popped through the base of the clouds, and I didn't see the runway. The runway was not in front of me, and so I had to ask the tower, where the runway was, and they basically said, it's just like 3 degrees off your nose. And I shifted my focus from here to there. I was like, oh, there it is. So you are so right. That little bit of change, just 2 or 3 degrees, it doesn't take much, but it can mean all the difference in between, in landing in the right spot.
I am so 100% with you. That's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, I when you said something about degrees, my mind always goes back to my flying days.
That's fantastic. I love those stories. What's up, Gail? Hey, I want to just tie in the audience a little bit. Like if anybody has any questions at all for either one of us, just go ahead and pop them in the comments. Don't be afraid to hit a like or love or whatever if you're watching and you want to get involved in there. That's great. All right. So David, what is one message? And this is really big for me. I love hearing about this one. What's one message that you really want to share with the world? Like if you were struggling and striving to get to the top of a mountain, right? Like we were talking about earlier, but once you got to the top, once you put all that effort in, you got to the top, like what would you want to, what's one thing that you would want to just scream off of that mountaintop?
That's a great question. It's kind of like the Tim Ferriss billboard question. Um, and but going to the top of the mountain kind of takes my mind in a different direction. And I think that um, I think the first thing that kind of comes to my mind is that um, as I'm at the top of the mountain, um, I've got people with me. So bring people with you.
Awesome.
It's not about going. I about 2 years ago, I summited a mountain it was a 14er in Colorado. One of the most amazing experiences of my life. It was one of the hardest things I've done in a while too, because of the altitude. And I couldn't have done it by myself. It would have been really challenging to do it by myself. I needed the people that were with me. So I think, getting to the top, it wouldn't have even been as meaningful if I didn't have those people with me. So, wherever you're headed on your journey, bring people with you and help them along the way, because, my oldest son was with me on that trip. And I just remember we got to the top, we couldn't stay very long. It looked like, there was some weather coming in. And so as we were coming down the mountain, it took us like 5 hours to get up and about 2 to get down. And when we were coming down the mountain, he had to kind of help me place my feet, because, it's not like you can just walk down the mountain. I mean, we literally were grabbing boulders and coming back down. And without his help, without some of the other guys' help, we wouldn't have gotten up the mountain, but we also wouldn't have gotten down the mountain. So that's a long story to say, bring people with you. It's not a solo sport. Let's bring people with us along on the journey, and, build each other up. I think that's a great message.
Super powerful, man. I don't like you took all the words out of me. That's how powerful you are, man.
Dude, no, come on, man.
David, you're just so amazing. Your transformation. I'm having a transformation just as we're talking.
I love it.
No, but I mean that sincerely. You are amazing, David. So what you're taking me to actually that is such a powerful lesson. So I was talking about this transformation that I'm having, right?
Yeah.
And we're all having transformations like multiple times a year, and we're having these breakthroughs. And some of the breakthroughs I'm having now is, well, let me take you back to the story I told before. When I had my companies, one of the things you had asked me, that same question that you had asked me, one of the things that I realized is, because my character wasn't entirely where it could be or where it should be, I was starting to experience that. So the people around me were where life's kind of like a mirror, right? And so I didn't have the right people around me because I wasn't presenting the right things. I didn't have those right models and those right paradigms. So that was part of what I was experiencing inside, is I knew that something was cracking, something was breaking. Like I like to think of it now as that egg sort of cracked, and I began to hatch and then incubate and those types of things, because now I'm a whole new being, and just really have leveled up like multiple times since then, which is amazing. So anybody who's looking to grow, like, that's a great metaphor. I mean, just continue to just incubate yourself and incubate yourself. It's not about the content. It's about the people around you that you're exposed to and where that takes you to. I mean, I've heard that statement many times about, if you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room.
In the wrong room. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so that's kind of what I was experiencing, is that even though I had a company and I was doing well and like all these things, I was in the wrong room, David.
Yeah.
So, anybody listen, if that resonates with you, just go ahead and hit a like or whatever. But so that's why I think this group is so amazing. It's really not about plugging a group, but that's the whole heart of this, is us sharing this kind of stuff together and then helping people along the way.
Well, it's a lot. I mean, I go back to the Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich book. I mean, it's been impactful for me for a long time. But, you think about the mastermind group, and I'll tell you that if you're not in at least one mastermind, I mean, you're missing out, because just like this group, you have other people who are willing to challenge you. And I mean, I was in my mastermind this morning, and, we went around the table, and there were like 4 people agreed, and we kind of gave some of the same, feedback. And one of the guys said, I disagree with all of you. I think, so it gave us a whole different perspective. So I really think what you're saying is exactly right. You got to get in the room with the right people. And I love this group because there are so many great people that, level us all up, and it's the collective, all of us that bring us all up as well. I was going to tell you, I mean, I know this is you interviewing me, but I was going to say, hey, let's go to the audience. Let's see what are some of the people that are watching. If anybody's still watching, what are they challenged with? What are some of the things that, as they grow on their journey, what are they challenged with, and what are they looking to do this year?
Yeah, I would love to hear that. If anybody wants to post something, that would be fantastic. And then what's amazing is here's what I love about live. So we might get somebody that has the guts, to put something on there, but we might also get somebody later on. So they're watching the replay and then they put something on there, and so it'll give us an opportunity to respond to them later as well. So that's
awesome.
That's the amazing thing.
Cool.
I saw a couple of likes and loves there floating.
That's nice.
I love when those float by, when you're trying to.
I can't see them, so.
But yeah, happy to speak into that with anybody. So, can you think of two people that you think are brilliant?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, first one that comes to my mind is somebody. A lot of the people in this group, if you're part of the John Maxwell team, Paul Martinelli.
Oh wait, stop there. You just said a lot of people in this group are brilliant. That's awesome.
Yes, absolutely.
There
are. They are. So yeah. So Paul Martinelli is one guy that has impacted me an awful lot since I've joined the John Maxwell team. He's up-leveled my mindset. I was just on the mentorship call yesterday. I had a quick question just about, thinking through how to reach CEOs better. And he gave me some great ideas. Actually, some of the things he gave me, I kind of put up on my board and kind of springboarded from there. So, and then took it to my mastermind this morning. So Paul Martinelli is one person I think is absolutely brilliant. And, I have to go back to, I had such a great relationship with my grandfather. He was one of my mentors. Even when I was in the kind of the corporate world and I was traveling all the time, I got to Atlanta an awful lot. I mean, my car knew how to get to the airport, and I could navigate to Atlanta without even thinking. And my grandfather lived in Northeast Georgia. So every time I went down there, I spent some time with him. And I would say his brilliance is being able to inspire not only me, but other people through his vibrancy and his zeal for life. And he, not to get, spiritual, but I mean, he was a follower of Jesus Christ, and he lived it his whole life. And matter of fact, this is kind of a little bit more of a personal story, but when he was dying, the thing that I wasn't there, but his wife, he actually outlived two wives. He's had three. His first one, my grandmother died, and then the next one passed away, and then the third one has outlived, is still around. Mm-hmm. But she said when he was dying that he basically was kind of like conducting. He was a song leader in what we would call a modern day worship leader in the church for many, many years. And it's kind of like he was conducting. And so I almost even think about, maybe was he conducting, a choir as he was going into heaven? I don't know. But anyway, so that's the long answer to my question, your question about, two people that I think are really brilliant.
Awesome. That's awesome. Hey, so Tanya she was jumping in there. She had a question about starting your own business. So what advice might you give to someone who's just starting their own business? Kind of starting out on the path.
Yeah. So I think the first thing here's a misstep that I made when I first started my own business, I guess it's coming up on 4 years now. 3 years, no, 3 years this summer. One of the things that I think the biggest thing is learn how to market. And I know that there's probably many different thoughts on this, but definitely work on your attraction marketing and be able to, yes, use social media, but also don't be afraid to pick up the phone. One of the things that I, just did in this Think and Grow Rich masterclass is it was basically by invitation only. I mean, I only invited, people that I thought would be a good fit for this particular masterclass. And so that's why there's, 14 people in it. And it's 14 people that I knew would be able to add value to the group. And I know that as I teach it, I'm going to learn from them as well. So starting a business, focus on marketing. What's going to drive the top of your funnel? You've got to have a sales funnel. And whether you like it or not, you're going to be in sales. And so that's the biggest thing I think I could tell you is make sure that you know how to market. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone, talk to people, and really focus on that marketing and that sales funnel.
Yeah, I love that. I would be inclined to agree. So years ago, I didn't think marketing was that important. I'm finding now, like in this type of business, it definitely is tremendously important. So it's a learning experience every day. Yeah. I would say, so from my perspective, is find clarity. So having been the owner of multiple businesses, this is now my 7th business. I look back through those businesses, which were all pretty darn successful. But they didn't start out that way. So you're going from, as you will know the terminology, from the departure point to the arrival point, right?
Yep.
Just the distance between those two, right? You're going from X to Y.
Yep.
And the more clarity you have in where it is that you want to go, is the faster you'll actually get there. So, success looks a little like this, right? It doesn't look like from X to Y.
It's not a straight line. Yeah.
No. And so the more clarity you can find in the beginning, because it's going to evolve. It's not going to be the same thing. You may start a company, realize it's not exactly what you want it to be, and you may evolve it to something else. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter where you start, but the more clarity that you have in where you are right now and where you want to be, not necessarily financially, although that's important too. That financial consciousness is important. But
totally agree, Brad. Yeah, totally agree, because that clarity. I mean, I think that when you're starting your marketing campaign and your marketing and creating your marketing plan, you got to be clear on who it is that you're serving. And I think that for me, I was not as clear in the beginning as I am now, and so it sometimes it takes a little bit of iteration, but give it some thought for sure.
Yeah, love that. That's one of the. So I have. You were talking about your mastermind. I'd like to know a little bit more about that before we get off here, but we got a couple minutes left.
Yeah.
So I'm launching a couple products actually. So
good.
They've been churning in my mind for a long time. I've been preparing. I've been working on systematically working on each of them. So I'm actually about to launch 5 products. On multiple tiers. So whether you're just beginning, whether you're higher level up or something, but that's one of the aspects of one of the courses that I have is your unique serving. So USP, unique serving proposition.
Nice.
So there's not a whole lot of people that talk about that, but I've had to find mine and I've had to seek advice in that. And, I paid hundreds and thousands of dollars to be able to do that. And so I want to be able to offer that back at a very, very menial cost. So these are beta courses. And so they'll be super, super inexpensive, especially to the group who will have a discount. Nice. Hey, getting back to the questions, what milestones or benchmarks are you currently working toward? I'm dying to know that.
Yeah, man. Thanks for asking that. That's good. Great. So I'm on a quest this year to double my income from last year. And the interesting thing is, as I look at it, some people will think, well, double your income. That's ludicrous, but you know what? It's possible. And so I'm setting my intention, setting my mindset, but I'm also putting in place some marketing tools to be able to do that. So that's probably one milestone that I'm after. And like you, I am creating some different programs to be able to serve more people. And as I do that, that's where this Think and Grow Rich Masterclass came in. My goal is to do 3 programs this year. And so I launched my first one as a beta group. And that's so my next one, I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to take the Think and Grow Rich Masterclass and offer it again, in about a month, and get another set of people who will come in and to learn together. But those are some things I'm working on. And then I've got some personal goals to
Sign me up.
Sign you up. All right. Love it. Yeah. So I'm just, keep moving forward, man. I got some great goals to, like from personal fitness perspective, all of that kind of stuff.
Awesome. Hey, Suzanne had a question. She said, thinking about your ideal avatar for marketing is so important before you start doing anything. Oh, I guess it wasn't a question. It was just a comment, which is awesome.
Totally agree, Susanna. Yeah.
Speaking into that. And then Tanya said, awesome stuff.
I love it. Love it.
So ultimately, so then we were talking about that departure point and arrival point. Like, so you know where you are here. I'm like, ultimately, what are you working to achieve, David?
Yeah. Great question. And honestly, I've thought about that a lot over probably the last 6 months. One of the things that I'm working towards is to be able to build a business that is not location specific, so that as my kids, continue to grow and get out, I've only got one left to get through high school. And I want to be able to, I want to travel. I want to see life. I want to see the world, but I want to impact people along the way. And so I also want to work with companies in this process to be able to help people where they spend the majority of their time. The majority of people spend their time at work, and learning how to be able to manage and integrate work and life together so that you can be successful not only in work, but in life, in your relationships, and in every aspect of your life. I was just talking to a senior executive earlier this morning, where we're in a coaching session. And, one of the things he's been struggling with is, learning how to let go and how to delegate. So we walk through some of those things. And so when you hold on to those things and you can't integrate your life, it makes life difficult. So my quest is to be able to bring about high performance through the balancing. I don't even want to use the word balancing, through the integration of all parts of your life, and helping companies to do that will impact more people, because that's where people spend the majority of their time.
Love that. That is super powerful and very clear, I might say. So some people don't have that kind of clarity. So I commend you for that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that's like me. So I want to bring leadership into the world. I want to bring clarity into the world.
Yeah.
To help people to get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Not for my benefit, but for them. Like, cause I'm coming up with a new tagline now. Like, clarity is the cornerstone of character, or character. I'm just playing around with these things like clarity. So I'm all about clarity because it took me so long to get there. Right. But clarity is the cornerstone of communication. It's the cornerstone of
absolutely
culture. It's the cornerstone. Oh, don't steal that.
Don't steal that.
But no, that's awesome. Thank you. We got a couple more minutes here, and then I'll check in with the group as well. So I'm dying to know. This is my favorite question. Any interview I have, I'm going to ask anybody this question. Like, what was your greatest breakthrough in life? Oh, and the crowd roars. Oh, there's like a gazillion likes right now going on.
Yeah, sure.
Not really. Oh, is that me doing that?
That's you. My greatest breakthrough. I'll tell you, I think that my greatest breakthrough was, I'm going to say probably in about 2010. So not that long ago. So I moved from Fort Wayne, Indiana to Pittsburgh to take a job, got laid off from that job, and then, had a winding path, but I ended up in the wellness industry. And so I was able to join a company right at the outset and actually become one of the, founding partners of it. And it was at that juncture that, and actually I can remember it pretty clearly. I was in a meeting one time with a company. It was a very large company. I had mostly been dealing with companies that were probably under 250 employees, and so this company had several thousand employees. And I was in a boardroom with the CEO and all the C-suite, CFO, chief, human resources officer. And I was delivering a presentation, and it was not just your typical presentation. It was more of an interactive presentation. And the CEO, kept firing questions at me. And I was able to answer all those questions. And then after that meeting, two things happened. A, I got the business. So we engaged with them. So that was cool. But the second thing is that there was like a switch that flipped in my head, and it was kind of like, okay, David, you're not number two anymore. You're okay. You're on your own, man, and you can do it. And so it was in that boardroom with that CEO, and I recognized that I got this. And so I think when I think about your question about what was the biggest breakthrough, I really look at that as a pivotal point in my life, and went on then to gain all kinds of great business, great relationships. The biggest thing I think that means the most to me is that my clients at that company still. I just got a call from one of the people still working there and said, I just got to tell you this. We were just at XYZ company, and they said, oh, we miss David. And I thought, you know what, man, that's meaningful. That means that I developed some cool relationships. So that's kind of the long way to answer your question.
No, that's perfect. I love it. Thank you very much for sharing that.
Yeah, man, my pleasure.
Breakthroughs are amazing. So, some people
Absolutely.
have never had a breakthrough. And
Yeah.
I have multiple breakthroughs per year. That's how fast I'm a maximizer. So we kind of push, and coaching, that always helps, that kind of stuff. Like,
right on.
But I will never forget the minute that when I sent all those letters out.
Yeah.
Mac Story was the one, Mac, right?
Yeah, yeah, sure do. Yeah, absolutely.
Mac Story was the one who reached out to me.
Cool.
And he kind of nudged me to go in a direction where I honestly, we all have these things in our head, these beliefs that we all have it. These things, the self-talk that we struggle with. And honestly, I didn't believe I could be doing what I'm doing today. Mm-hmm. And so, I encourage anybody that sees this, like, it's time to level up. Yeah, it's time to reach out to your network. I do want to plug the group for a minute. Reach out to somebody in the group. Pop into a mastermind. Reach out to David. If you really want to level up, get in the TAGR, the Think and Grow Rich. That's a super amazing mastermind that he's offering. And I would like you to give some information about that too. And then also, give information that people can reach out to you if they want to reach out to you, like your website or your Facebook, or whatever it is. But just reach out to me, reach out to him, reach out to anybody in the group. And we have so many coaches. It's not even necessarily about coaching. That's an awesome. If you're really serious about leveling up, then do it. Don't even hesitate. Probably the best investment you would ever make in your life. But collaboration in itself, like, just try to go out for some coffee and get 3 people in a room and just say, hey, you know what? I'm trying to sort this out. Like, that's what this group is about. Communication and clarity, and, just collaboration is huge. So David, tell us how to get in touch with you. If you, I know how to get in touch with you. I just run right across the city.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. I'll give you that in just a second, but I didn't want to miss something, because one of the things that you said, that collaboration is so important. And if you've never really experienced collaborating with somebody, to be able to recognize that, someone can help level you up, man, you got to be able to do that. One of the things that my dad taught me, like right out of the gate, when I was 20 years old, I got my insurance license when I was 20. And the first thing he taught me was that, David, part of the pie is better than none of the pie. And so what he was saying is that work together with people to be able to help and get what you're after. And, I look back at that as a pivotal teaching that my dad gave me. And it really, I think, has driven me to be the business owner and the coach and who I am today, because I love collaborating. I love to be able to add my value to somebody else's value so that we can, attack a goal and achieve something greater than just I could or they could by themselves. So I didn't want to miss the opportunity to be able to kind of really continue to plug that collaboration, because I think all high achievers need to be able to collaborate. So that was that. But to
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love it.
David at davidmcglennen.com, or you can also, reach out to me on Facebook. I will say that I'm very intentional on Facebook. So I don't have it up on my phone all the time. And I usually will check it out, once during the day, usually around noontime, and then usually a little bit in the evening time. But I've been a lot more intentional with that. But David at davidmcglennen.com is my email. Ping me on Facebook. My website is davidmcglennen.com.
Yeah, that's great. That's actually a super good point too. So many of us, especially in this network, are super busy. So I'm like, if you post something in there, not always will you get like an immediate response, but you might get one like later on at the night or the next day or something like that, because that's something I'm definitely moving into. I'm about to do a Facebook Live on my regular Facebook. Tune in, check it out, about the do's and don'ts of connecting with influencers.
When are you going to do that?
I don't know, probably tomorrow.
Okay. All right, cool.
Are you going to stretch me and make me do it right now? I'll hop off and do it right now, man.
No. I just want to know so I can tune in. You said tune in. When I got to put it on my calendar, man.
I'll keep you and all the high achievers posted. I promise.
Love it.
All right. Tell me one more time about your mastermind. You didn't kind of really go into that.
Oh, yeah. So, Think and Grow Rich Masterclass. I've been, we're about 3 weeks into it right now. So this is actually a beta for me. It's the first time I've ever delivered it. So, but it's been so much fun. Matter of fact, I was telling Paul Martinelli yesterday on the phone that, one of the things I'm learning is that.
Can I stop you there real quick? And we are kind of going over a little bit, but there's a lot of people that don't know who Paul Martinelli is. So he runs a company of like $100 million, right?
Right. Yeah. The John Maxwell team he's the president of the John Maxwell team.
Okay. Thanks. Sorry, but I just want to, draw the listeners in.
Yeah. Thank you. Now I lost my train of thought. That's okay.
On the phone with Paul Martinelli.
Think and Grow Rich. Yeah. So, just when you teach something, man, you really begin to learn something and learn it in a different way and absorb it in a different way. So I'm about 3 weeks into this Think and Grow Rich Masterclass. If you want to join, feel free, ping me. It's not too late. The first exercise is we go with the chapter on persistence, chapter 9. And the first exercise is read it for 14 days in a row. It's going to test your persistence. And so there's a reason why we do that. But do that if you want.
I have done that, by the way.
Awesome. Good man. Good man. Awesome. Yeah. So just let me know if you want to jump on that. I'd be more than happy to do that. Just posted the teaching the lesson on faith last night. That was I got some like ahas even as I was teaching it. So pretty
cool. Book is so powerful. I've read that book. It's got to be 30 times now. Well, plus the 14 days of reading that chapter.
Yeah, man.
So a lot. And every single time, I mean, there's, and most of the people in the group know that, I mean, I've read, lots and lots of books. I mean, I went almost 6 years reading a book a day. But of all the books that I've read like that, I can count on one hand, like the books that you keep reading them. And every single time you read them, you get something totally new out of it. And that's amazing. So I love that you're doing that particular book. That's cool. Super powerful, David.
Awesome.
You are awesome. I want to thank you for being on. I want to thank everybody for this went a whole hour. So
I can't believe it.
You and I could probably go a whole day, but I want to thank everybody for watching.
Yeah. Thanks,
Suzanne, Jeannie, Josh was on, and Chris Reese was on, and Steve Finch, Tim Kane. You guys, thanks for joining us. And don't be afraid to hit pound replay if you hit it on the replay. So, David, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Brad, man.
Appreciate your time, and I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you, guys.